OVC. This is Dave. Bought some recent music here lately, and I thought I'd show what I have been listening to and found here lately. Some of it on the web, and others are maybe something I picked up here in town. But first off, I went to this little concert here recently. They held it at the library here where I live, and the lady's name is Lauren Pillon, and you can see she's got a stringed instrument there in her hand, and it's kind of like, well, I'm really interested in what she might do. It just says that Lauren Pillon traces the story of music and performs music from around the world on ancient and modern instruments and voice. And it was held at the library here in town. And when we went in, there was a table set up, and you could get this little brochure that shows the same instrument in the other photo, and it has this little bone looking flute instrument that she could play. She played both stringed instruments and wind instruments, and she had a little synthesizer off to her side and a foot pedal, and she could trigger you know, I guess some of the things from that synthesizer. And also she had like some kind of harmonizer too that she would trigger to where she could do harmonies and everything. But yeah, it was pretty good. It was just a small affair, but I enjoyed it. And she talked about many of the different instruments that she was going to play, and played many of her you know, original songs and everything. She did you know, songs from all over the world, from Ireland to Italy, and oh golly, a little bit of everywhere. There was a Greek inspired song that she did, and you know, several there was one from South Africa. This bone flute, supposedly, and I don't know if that was really made from bone, or perhaps a you know, somebody might have made that synthetically for her, but that was a flute that was fashioned in the way of, say, Native Americans, and she called it an eagle bone flute, and the song that she did was called Eagle Flying Over Water. But she also played a hurdy-gurdy, which is the first time I've ever seen one of those in real life, and sang a song to it. And evidently the version of the hurdy-gurdy that she had I think she said 2 strings, and you'd turn this crank which would turn a wheel in it, and that wheel would like drone one of the strings, and the other string, I think she could I forget how she played it, but you could do a melody on with the other string. And she played other various instruments. She played a arched lute, a crumb horn, a cornemuse, and a guitar as well, and a concertina, penny whistles, a lyre, and a Kiowa cording flute. So you know, and probably more than that too, but anyway, I thought it was a really interesting concert, and I enjoyed it. So picked up some music here recently. This is one of them. This is Latitude on the Lifestyle record label, and Gary Cosmic Pickle showed this album not too long ago, or maybe he put it up on the web, I can't remember, to listen to. But yeah, it's a pretty good album. It's real atmospheric and kind of light jazz. Now, I knew of the Lifestyle music label, which kind of looks like this. But a long time ago, back when I was buying more New Age music, I went to a chain record store, and I can't remember if it was Record Bar or, oh golly, Sound Warehouse perhaps, down there in Austin. When me and my brother would go on vacation, we would hit Waterloo and you know, various of the record stores. There was one up north though that we would go to, which is no longer there, and it may have been Sound Warehouse, but they'd come out with this promotion, which was various bands on the Lifestyle label, and it was a sampler, and I picked it up. It was very inexpensive at the time. I think it was like, I don't know, $4 or less maybe, because they were promoting all these albums and the bands in there. And of course you can see the album that I picked up here recently, which is this one. But they had various bands on here, and some of them were here's one by Robert Schroeder, I believe, right here. Of course they also had the Golden Voyage over here and here. But I always liked a lot of the bands on this record, and for whatever reason, you know, I never really did follow up on it. In fact, I never did really even see any other records on this label here, which is probably one of the reasons. It's just like I just never ran across it out in the wild. But yeah, I was happy to find another one on that label. I got this one off of this one and the next couple of ones off this oldies.com, which Christopher Kebler showed not too long ago on his channel. But I also picked up this one by Osamu Kitajima. Not too sure how you say his name, but I like the way the cover looks on it. Looks pretty dreamy and atmospheric, and I haven't listened to it yet, but I'm pretty sure it's that way too. I did have this album by him previously, The Source, which I still like and play every once in a while. And it's kind of new age music. It's got actually it's got one song on one side and two songs on the other. And he's got other various musicians on here with him. He plays acoustic guitar, synthesizer, Chinese koto, and percussion. But he also has other musicians on here helping him that play acoustical piano, harp, violin, percussion, lyricon, and another instrument that I can't pronounce, electric guitar. But yeah, it's very atmospheric and you know, lyrical, and you know, it's a pretty good album, pretty easy to get into. So I look forward to hearing this one by him. Then I found this one too on oldies.com. This is on another record label, Rising Sun Records. I guess they're out of Mills Valley, California. Excuse me. But again, way back in the day, I picked up this cassette, and I don't know, you know, if I just picked this up not knowing anything about it, which is probably what I did, or I picked it up in some store that was handling new age music. But it has some of the people on it that record on the same album that I picked up. Taja Bell is one of them, and Dallas Smith, and various other musicians. John Burnoff, Marcus Allen, and Robert Powell plays a pedal steel guitar. And yeah, there's different kind of instruments on here, from acoustical steel string guitar and electric and 12-string guitars, electric bass and keyboard, synthesizers, percussion. All these musicians were all multi-talented or play multi-different instruments. And so I'm sure it's going to be pretty nice. Like I said, I haven't heard it yet either. But it says it's a blend of acoustic and electric instruments. So I got this one off of oldies.com too, so I like the cover too. It looks nice. It's Summer Suite. And then I picked up this one here by Coyote Oldman, and I didn't know anything about this musician, or at least when I first bought it I thought it was just one guy perhaps. I got this off of Swap a CD, which is a site online, swapacd.com. You can do a Google search on it, or maybe I'll leave a link. But sometimes on Swap a CD, the people that put their CDs up don't have covers for them, which is the way this came. The guy was nice enough to Xerox me off a set list of the songs and a picture of the cover. But the reason I got it was because it was on Hearts of Space music label. And I went over to Amazon and listened to some of the songs on it, and I thought, hey, that sounded pretty good, so I ended up getting it. And it is really pretty good. It's sort of, there's a little bit of world or ethnic, kind of like Native American music in it, and also when I went online I found out that it's not just one guy, it's a duo of musicians. And I think they play all sorts of instruments, different kind of instruments, and they're multi-instrumentalist. So yeah, I mean, like, it's very indicative of Hearts of Space music, sort of atmospheric and kind of like broad, as far as, like, reminds me of places like Arizona and the Grand Canyon and stuff like that. Very much reminds me of the great outdoors. And so yeah, I went online to Amazon. I saw they had a lot of other music, so I might have to check out more. This one's called Thunder Chord. I believe that's the name of it. Yeah, Thunder Chord. So yeah, I was happy to get this CD. Let's see here. Here's one I bought recently off Amazon. This is Impressions of a Year by Gary Hayden, and I got this off of Amazon. Just got it in today, so I haven't even opened it yet, but I'll do so real quick. This is a CD Gary made. He's a multi-instrumentalist too. I know he plays guitar and keyboards, and has quite a few percussive instruments of all sorts. And just kind of met Gary on the VC community, and he's pretty open and likes chatting back and forth. But all the songs on here are about you know, impressions of each month. So there's like 12 months on here, and then he's got like a bonus track of, it says April Impression Ambient Mix. But yeah, It's on, I believe this just comes from, it says on here, down on the bottom, CD Records, or CD Baby, which you can get it on CD Baby or Amazon, either one. And it came with a full booklet and what have you. So yeah, look forward to listening to it. I've heard some of it. You can find this, Gary had posted this online that you can listen to. So yeah, you can do a Google search on Amazon if you like, and I mean, not well, either on Amazon or you can hear it on YouTube. So I think he's got the whole thing posted up on YouTube. See, I also found this CD at Goodwill for a couple of bucks, and it's another one of these compact jazz CDs. This is Buddy Rich, and it's on Verve compact jazz, and it just has various you know, I want to say hits, but various songs that he's done on a lot of his other albums. And again, Gary did a little talk, or had one of his videos on Buddy Rich, and mentioned this CD and this particular label here called Compact Jazz. And there are other musicians on here featured, like Max Roach and Ben Webster, Jimmy Rolls, and Harry Sweet Edison. And he's got all kind of songs on here. Some of them are covers, like A Night in Tunisia and Yardbird Suite. But yeah, it's in mint shape, so I was real happy to find it. See, I got this one here recently. It's a sort of free jazz, maybe a little bit, but as you can see from the cover there, this is Greg Bendian, Bone Structure. But I found this. There was a guy on another forum that was talking about it, and I found it at a pretty good price. It's on Cryptogramophone label. The music is the cover is very indicative of what the music really sounds like. It's very atmospheric, kind of moody, a little bit dense, but it's not real. And this album here could actually fit on the ECM label pretty easily. It's got G.E. Stinson on here. The name of the band is Bone Structure, but G.E. Stinson used to play on Shadowfax here, Shadowfax albums. I have several of their albums, but now I used to think this was the Shadowfax's first album, actually, but it's not. Their first album was a lot more fusion-y, and actually I listened to it. I just found that out here recently. I was listening to some cuts, or I saw a post on the site that some guy was talking about the first album, and I thought this was their first album, but it's not. Their first album is really pretty Mahavishnu Orchestra inspired. It's not quite as fiery, but it's in that mold. And then after that album, I think this is the second album that they did, and it's more I really don't know how to describe it. This is more Americana, soft jazz. I almost want to say that Shadowfax kind of remind me of an American organ, the band Organ, but that's not really quite adequate, I don't think. This is another one. Now, I don't know if this was the second one I bought or the other one, but anyway. This Bone Structure album is nothing like those Shadowfax albums. It's more atmospheric, a little bit dark and brooding. I would say the word experimental would adequately describe this album. So if you like things experimental, sort of moody, then this would be right in your wheelhouse. But there's like 12 songs on it, and they're all pretty long. So yeah, you could probably go listen to some of this over on Spotify, I imagine, or it may be up on Amazon for all I know. But it's got Greg Bendy, and he's a percussionist, drummer. Jeff Gaither plays electric and acoustic violins. Stuart Liebig plays contrabass guitars, applied tools and technology. And then you've got G.E. Stinson on electric guitars, dobro, and implements. So yeah, pretty good album. I found this one here at the Goodwill here in town not too long ago. This is an old one of Stan Getz' earlier albums, and it's a live one in Stockholm. I was just reading a little bit of the liner notes on the back of it, which is by Nat Henthoff. He used to work for, or used to write for The Village Voice and Downbeat magazine, and he was talking about that Getz and the other musicians on this album that appear to be all Swedish musicians, and the pianist on this album was just 25 years old when he made this album. But like a lot of Stan Getz music, it's very mellow, easy listening and easy going. But at the same time, it's a pretty pleasant album to listen to. Has Gunnar Johnson on it. Anders Berman is the drummer, and then you have pianist Hallberg is the young 25-year-old that plays on here. But yeah, overall it's a pretty good album that's live, and you wouldn't know it. You wouldn't know it is live. There's not like a lot of crowd noise or anything. It almost sounds like a studio album, really. But pretty good find there. I picked this up. This is a compilation album called String Alchemy. Is that the name of it? Yeah. From Eclectic to Electric. And it has various artists on it. I got this off of Swap a CD too. And it is from, is this Vanguard? Yeah, Vanguard Records. And I just picked it up because it has various artists on here, and it had a Mimi and Richard Farina. I was real curious. They had 3 songs on here. I was real curious about what Mimi and Richard Farina did on here. But it's also got some Larry Coryell, and some Larry Coryell with Ralph Towner, Colin Wolcott, and Glenn Moore play one song. And then Larry Coryell and John McLaughlin play a duo. And you got Larry Coryell in the 11th House, and then again another song by Larry Coryell and the guys of Oregon with Towner and Wolcott and Moore. And then there's just one Oregon song on here. John Fahey does one song on here, and then you've got Sandy Bull on here, which is a pretty neat guitarist. But overall, it's a really neat album. I like it quite a bit. Put it on like when I'm in the kitchen or doing something. But yeah, I was happy to find it. This is another New Age album I bought. If I could pronounce this guy's name correctly, Anton Miserak, on the Shasta Song record label. And Anton plays keyboards and Tibetan bowls. And of course there's other musicians on here as well. There's David Akash plays a bamboo flute, and another musician that plays bamboo flute, and Gary Cooper plays acoustic guitars. But again, it's just sort of a new age type music, light jazz with a little bit of maybe some world influence in it. But yeah, I haven't listened to it enough, but I think it's going to be a pretty good album. When Angels Dream. And I think that's about it. I did get, well, I'll go ahead and show these. This is a Jim Hall album I found, Dialogues. And on it, Jim plays with several other musicians, from Bill Frisell to Gil Goldstein, Tom Harold, Joe Lovano plays on it, and Mike Stern. And then he's got, he plays duos with those people. And then Scott Colley and Andy Watson play drums on it. I like the cover. But yeah, it's on Telart Jazz. And just got it recently, and like what I've heard so far, it's a little bit of a departure from Jim's other stuff. A little bit more experimental, but pretty good music. I like it. I don't know if Jim Hall made a bad album. I haven't heard one yet. And I got this one on Swap CD too. This is Yoko Ono Plastic Ono Band. Take Me to the Land of Hell. But like a lot of Yoko's albums, it's not as experimental as like her earlier stuff, but at the same time it's still a little bit avant-garde, but easier to get into than some of the stuff that I've heard from her. But yeah, I mean, like, this is really a pretty good album, and the studio musicians that she's got on here that back her up are you know, all really good. Nils Klein plays guitar on here. Sean Ono Lennon does some percussion. You know, golly, I mean, like, there's just a lot of different studio musicians on here, and I like Nils Klein. I like the way he plays guitar. So yeah, good album. Was happy to get it. Well, I think that I'll just about wrap this up because it's going to take too long to load as it is, but those are what are some of the finds I found here recently and bought here recently. Hope everybody's doing well and enjoying their music, and we'll talk to you later.